Tere ilusat neljapäeva õhtut taas Inspiratsiooniraamatukogu podcasti. Minu nimi on Kris Leinatam ja täna me räägime ühe väga huvitava inimesega ühel väga huvitaval teemal. Ja ma usun, et sellel teemal on natukene teadjamad ainult need, kes on juba lugenud minu selja taga asuvat raamatut Miljoni-Inimene, mille autoriks on arst, doktor Simon Peter Rosenberg, kes on pärit Austriast. Lisaks sellele, et ta on arst, on ta ka investor, coach ja maailma number 1 rikkuse ja äriteemalise raamatu Miljoni-Inimene autor. Welcome, Simon. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you here. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You are a medical doctor by education, and yet you decided to live your life walking a totally different path. How and why did you become an entrepreneur?
Thanks for the question. That is actually the whole story, how language of life, language of life, how eventually Milline-Inimene happened. I was a student of medicine back in 2016. I was in Paris with the European exchange program Erasmus. And I realized at the time that, becoming a doctor is great. I can serve one need. I can serve the need for health. That's what I can do. I can make people, feel confident about their health. I can contribute to that. But, I'm limiting myself to one specific need. And I remember that evening, it was the Christmas Eve of 2016, and I was at Trocadero, which is, you have the view to the Eiffel Tower, and I realized, oh my God, this is, what am I doing? Tomorrow I have to go back to work. I was just coming from a night shift, and it was Christmas Eve, so it was a pretty weird situation, and there was no one out there. It was late at night, and I realized, oh my God, I want to do something bigger. I mean, what I'm doing is great, but I want to have something where I can serve all, I try to serve all needs, but more needs than just one need, which is health. It's an important need, but check the list in the book, the needs list. There are more needs than just one need, and I want to serve more needs. And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as an investor, as you said, I guess that was what you said in Estonian, I can serve more needs, eventually 7 billion plus, as I always say. And that's why I became an entrepreneur essentially. But yeah, I started as a medical doctor. That's true.
And that was only 5 years ago, you said, 2016. It's going to be 5 years this December. That's really quickly. What were your first businesses? You were just an ordinary student back then, I understand.
Yeah, right. Well, initially I was doing political work. So I started a campaign which essentially focused on getting a compassionate European Union. So that was the first. I was going more towards
a compassionate European Union.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That was the first project. It was called European Dreams Project. It was pretty successful at the time. I had 13,000 followers on Facebook. So that was pretty huge. And it started out of nowhere. I was just starting posting about how European policies could be more compassionate. And but then I then went to the diplomatic academy to go into this political field. But at the time, that was in 2019, was this one day, and then I met J.T. Fox, in Vienna in the Congress Hotel, and he was talking about business and and how massive the opportunities are if you start speaking and engaging with more people, essentially doing business with others. And then I thought to myself, well, wow, the amount of people I can reach with this kind of, approach to a language of life is probably bigger than, going to political steps, become more known and go through all that steps, it is a way. But at the time I realized probably, or most likely I will be faster achieving my goals if I go into business rather than to politics, because, in politics, I'm always kind of limited what I'm allowed to say, or I have someone superior to me who is kind of controlling what I say. And as an entrepreneur, I have to take full responsibility for what I do and what I say. So it is more risky in some ways, but I have the upside potential is bigger. And to your question, initially I was doing coaching services, where I was educating people about the language of life. I had a great partner from the UK who was giving me the opportunity to, use their online lectures to educate basically, well, mostly European, but, essentially the way it worked, like people would reach out to me and I was, kind of helping them with their unmet needs. I was, educating them. So that's how I started, like an online educational service. But then, I started to get into finance, and so yeah, just widened the field, and now I'm pretty much into finance and crypto and real estate. So it just got different and energy. So yeah, it's something that happens over time. You just realize you want to go into business, and from there, every day there are new opportunities basically. And I have this golden rule: I don't do more things than 5 things, but those 5 things all the time. So I would say crypto, finance, real estate, energy. And then I try to also keep coaching, mentoring, although it's getting less and less, but I want to keep that, and writing. So I see that in the same category.
Okay. Well, excellent. And all that in 3 years. It seems like you're on a really quick path. Does it seem very quick to you too?
Well, when I look back, when you just said it, 5 years, wow, yeah, I don't have the impression it was 5 years. Time's just so fast. Sometimes I don't realize, yeah, it's 5 years, but I would say like, I don't have the impression it was 5 years compared to the 20 years before that. So, and that's something, most people probably don't understand when they're not doing it. But the moment you really start becoming an entrepreneur, you realize, okay, you have only 24 hours. Otherwise you would see, like, I have 8 hours to go to work. But if you're an entrepreneur, oh God, I have only 24 hours a day. So you just see the schedule change, Otherwise, before, I remember like, oh God, 8 hours of, work, that's like 5 hours university classes, that was like huge. But now when I like 5 hours, oh God, only 5 hours or only 8 hours, whatever. So it just changes completely. And yeah, so I kind of want to show that to people, how exciting it is. I think like most of people are afraid to make that first step, but once they did it, they see it's like you have to do the first step, and then wow, it's not as bad as I thought. It's just amazing, and then yeah, life becomes unlimited, I would say.
When you talked about your first businesses and even before that, regarding the political work, you already mentioned the language of life, which means that by the time you decided to do something, by the time you decided to start to meet more needs than this only health need that people have, you already had that concept of the language of life in you. Where did it come from, and what it is?
Yeah, well, essentially, the idea basically comes from my family's education. If you go on LinkedIn and check my profile, I say Rosenberg Academy from 1994 to 2015. So that's where this essentially comes from. That is like the Rosenberg's way of life, if you want, and the Rosenberg's family language, if you want. So that's where it comes from. And my father was writing about that in his books, and he basically showed in his books to everyone. I mean, I call it, it's open source. Everyone can check it out. He wrote about the fields where you can basically use the language of life. And one of the pitfalls he left also for everyone to read is that he never really went into social media, this big tech opportunity to really, get his message across. And I see even a bigger opportunity in crypto, with this decentralized way of interaction. And there is these decentralized social networks where you can basically, post your message, your content on a blockchain, and it cannot be, it cannot be censored, it cannot be taken down, it will be there forever. So, I think there's even a bigger opportunity than the big tech like Facebook, social media and all that. But, that's, what I kind of see my mission to continue with that goal to, promote and educate and share the message of life. And with the blockchain, with this technology, achievements, the human societies are getting bigger and bigger every day. And Elon Musk says we are already superhuman, which is true. I can post something and it's there forever. How could have that been possible 100 years ago? I post something and in the same second, someone in Hong Kong can read it, or in South America it's late night, but they see the same content and it's there forever. So that is huge. And I think for the length of life, we, by the way, posted the length of life white paper on the blockchain already, so it's there forever. It cannot be taken down. It will sit there and everyone can read it. So it's just important that this basic human tool, I mean, everyone has it. It's not something that I invented or my dad. It's just it's human nature, true human nature, if you want. And it's just important that we have access to this powerful force within us. And the language of life tools, as I described in Milline-Human in the book, they just help me to get back to that and apply it. And when I say go language of life, it's just live your human nature. And funny, through persistence, we finally released a crypto coin which is called Human Nature through HNT, and it trades around $5 a coin right at the current exchange price. So we just want to make people aware that even a payment can be a compassionate payment. And what does that mean? Well, you pay because you want to express your gratitude. So if I give you $1 or €1, in Europe, it's essentially my expression of gratitude for what need you meet for me. So, just taking a step back and looking at a transaction, if you go to a store and buy some groceries, that is also, you go there because you have a need. Mm-hmm. You're hungry, right? The store is there because they want to serve a need. They want to contribute to the enrichment of life. They want to make another person's life more beautiful. They want to express kind of community. They want to be of service. So it's just a language of life, everything we do 24/7, and we're just trying to meet those needs in whatever we do.
So basically you're saying that that's a really interesting idea, that money, let it be then dollar or euro, it's a kind of a thank you note.
It essentially is. When people say I need money, I don't like that term because it kind of corrupts the idea of humanity. Mm-hmm. Money is a strategy. With money, I can serve a need or I can meet an unmet need. So mm-hmm. Money is a strategy. A property is a strategy to have shelter. School is kind of a strategy to educate, to learn or meet my goals in life. That can be a strategy. It's not the only one, but it is a strategy. So taking a step back, if you look behind you, you have like 100 books behind you, and all these books, they serve a need.
They serve a need.
What need is that? You can make a guess here, but I guess it's you want to expand your horizons. You kind of want to find ways to achieve your goals in life. Books can be a way to do that. I hope Milline-Human is for people to learn about the language of life and essentially discover their goals in life with a language of life and want to approach that with a language of life. So that's why I wrote this book. And that's the whole idea about language of life business and language of life entrepreneurship, that people or entrepreneurs take a step back and say, okay, what kind of need do I want to serve? Well, they come up with the need that is behind that, and then they go language of life. They serve that need, they do the business. And let's take the human nature through the coin. The idea behind is that people do, conscious payments, compassionate payments. So whenever they transact, they take full responsibility for what they are doing, because they have to. What they transact, who they do business with, it's public. Everyone can see it. It's not hidden in a, it's not behind someone else's back. It's public. Everyone can see it. So you have to take full responsibility for what you're doing, and that's why you're conscious. And then the other note is the compassion. So you want to, whenever you use human nature true, you express your gratitude. You are aware of what you're doing. So you take human nature true coin, you pay, and that is an expression of gratitude for the other person who is kind of serving your needs. And when people want to hire me for a conference, whatever, I charge in human nature too. So we're really trying to get this message across as much as possible.
Okay, so what I hear in this book very much is the concept of doing everything from your heart, a heart-to-heart business. This is an essential part of Go Language of Life, I understand. And another word that you're using very much here today is compassion. Is there anything else, and needs, of course, the tank of needs, but is there anything else that is truly essential in Go Language of Life? What else do you need? Empathy? Why?
Well, I used to say when I was doing these political campaigns, human nature is love, empathy, and compassionate giving. So I kind of adapted that and say compassion. But those three things are essential to a language of life: love, empathy, and compassionate giving. So love is like, this is me, this is what I need. That's how I define love in the language of life. So these are my needs. That's love. If someone comes to you and tells you about his or her needs, that is an expression of love. Empathy, on the other hand, is if you are with that person, you hear what he's saying, what she is saying. It's not necessarily that you agree with that, but you are fully with that person. My dad used to say empathy is, I'm fully with that person, I'm not full of that person. So if you are full of that person, you're kind of taking responsibility for their needs. And that would be essentially the bankruptcy slang, because then it's like slavery, it's like hell on earth. If you take responsibility for another person's needs, or even further for their feelings. So, if someone is angry at you, then that's not probably because of you, but of an unmet need the person has. So if you take responsibility for that, for you, that would be hell on earth. And then compassionate giving is essentially, what I explained before, is that people, interact consciously and out of compassion whenever they share, exchange, that they do it because they, want to serve each other, they want to enrich each other's life. And that's giving. When you give in a language of life, you don't expect a return for it. You give because you express your gratitude. If I would expect something from you, let's say, we do an interview and I expect something from you for that, that wouldn't be gratitude. That would be corruption in some way. I would corrupt the exchange with another human being if I would expect something for it. Mm-hmm. If I'm in a relationship, I'm in a relationship because I want to be there. It's not that I expect something from it. That's a huge mistake in relationship coachings, for example. I was doing that a lot in 2019, and I just realized, the approach is so dangerous, because there's always this expectation from the other person that could be very damaging. I mean, not could be, it is on the long run for any relationship, may it be business, may it be personal. If there's any sort of expectation, if you kind of hold another person accountable for your feelings, that's not going to work, and I try to coach that as much as possible my business partners, that they understand everything they do basically falls back to their needs. And that is the conscious transaction, the conscious payment, the conscious words you use. That's language of life. That's living the language of life.
Yeah. You say you use a term of language of life business. What are the differences between the business as we run it, like in majority? Most of people do business in one way. We talk about about win-win solutions and things like that. They are very modern already for a long time. But it seems to me that Go Language of Life business is like another level, a next level or a third level from that win-win solution. What does it distinguish?
There are very famous business coaches who say win-win solutions don't work in business. I agree. What they argue is that win-win doesn't work because there will always have to be someone who wins. So that's their argumentation why win-win doesn't work. So there cannot be two.
That's a very Balkan understanding of business, that someone always has to lose.
Boxing understanding of business. I agree on that win-win doesn't work, because if it is win-win in the terms we as a society understand, win-win means that we kind of take a step back and say, okay, I accept that step back and you accept your step back. So that would be essentially,
it's a compromise.
It's a compromise, right? And that is not the language of life business. So in the language of life business, you know, you sit down with a partner, you discuss the deal, and then you realize, okay, there are some points we cannot agree upon, but then you just leave it. You don't want to, you know, compromise on your needs, nor would the other one compromise on his needs. If there are no ways to sort it out, then the best way is just to take a language of life break. You know, a language of life timeout is okay, thank you very much, but you know, right now I cannot serve your needs, or it doesn't serve my needs. And then the challenge for the other person is to respond compassionately or empathically on that quote. You know, I cannot serve, but it doesn't serve my needs. Well, that's not personal. If I take that personal, I would say, okay, you know, he thinks I'm a crook, whatever, but it's not the case. It's just that, you know, I realize, okay, I have my needs right now for this operation, for this business. The other person has not a need, and we cannot find a mutual agreement. But then the mutual agreement is, you know, to take a timeout, to take a break, a language of life break, as my dad called it. Mm-hmm. And a win-win solution would be that, you know, we compromise on our needs. Okay, most people would not see it, but essentially that's what it is. You compromise on needs and come to an agreement. It's often in politics, you know, there are compromises, and I don't call that. And you see the result, you know, if there is ever a deal done based on compromises, on the long run, it's going to fail. That's a reality. You can argue about it, but that's why human nature is essentially the core, or should be the core of all business ventures. You know, if you don't understand that, needs change every second. You know, as a result, feelings change with the needs. Like you could write a chart on that and see, like, one need is up, then, you know, it just changes all the time. It's like, you know, people call crypto volatile, I call human nature volatile even more than that.
Yeah, true.
So, or stocks, it's just nothing compared to human nature. And if you're not able to deal with that, then I would say don't become an entrepreneur, because, or, you know, then it's even the question being an entrepreneur, an employee, whatever. If you cannot deal with human nature, then it's probably very difficult to live, even, you know, if you don't understand that, you know. And that's why our mission to get the language of life to 7 billion plus people out there, because 7 billion people plus deserve the power of using it. You know, when you go language of life, you know, wherever you are on your income scale, it's just mind blowing and opens new possibilities for you and for the world around you. So it's open source. It should be taught to every school child, even earlier, you know, in the playgrounds.
But isn't it something that we should have innately in ourselves already, this language of life? Isn't it the society? I totally disagree about blaming everything on society, as society is us. But even though it seems to me that the environment or the society is killing the innate language of life in early stages of a child, and we truly are at first pure language of life millionaire human beings, because if you ask a child, he is capable of doing everything.
Right, and that's where it happens. You know, that's where this tragedy happens. At the moment you tell a child, don't do that, or you have to, whatever, you know, that's essentially when you kind of, you know, limit this power of a child. And it's tragic how societies did that over generations and generations. You know, you tell a child, you have to do that, don't do that, you know, you should do that. Those three words, like should, do, have to, must, not, must, you know, all these kind of molar verbs, you know, they are probably the weapons of mass distraction, because, you know, they kind of, you know, take away the human nature, the true human nature, and kind of limit it and don't make mistakes, you know, do what you have to do. And these kind of ideas, they stay with you, and children basically do what their parents show them. And, you know, if parents have been, you know, educated that way, then it's just a copy of what you've seen before. So it's really hard to get out of that. I mean, you know, for most people, when they start with language of life, the best is really to have like a the keynotes of all the needs with you, and whenever you are in a situation you kind of feel helpless, just take a step back and say, sorry, I need to read something, and then you check the needs, and then you get back to it. That helps a lot. And I know, my dad always mentioned that in his books. Like, I can't mention the name here, but a very famous CEO of a Silicon Valley tech company did that. So he had the needs list in his pocket, and whenever he felt like kind of disconnecting from his human nature, he just said, okay, sorry guys, time out. He really did that, and he still does it. So he just takes a break, even in public, and say, okay, sorry. I mean, nowadays he's pretty good at it, but so it works, and it's just a helpful tool to get into it. If you have years of of bankruptcy slang, you just take the list and change the.
Is this list universal? You say, I mean, literally you take a small, I have a bookmark here, but you have something in your pocket and you have written the needs that you have. Are the needs universal or are they personal?
No, they are universal. I mean, the list is not complete. I would say, everyone can, it's open source. You could say, okay, I want to add this needs list, this need to the list, but they are universal. I mean, 7 billion people have them. Probably the way they express them is different, or the strategies they have. That's probably the big difference. The way you serve a need or you meet a need in Europe is probably different than you do in South Africa, or, in China than you do in Mexico. So the strategies, how people approach their unmet needs, is definitely different, but the needs themselves are universal, I would say. Yeah, they definitely are.
If you had this little mark in or this little paper in your inner pocket, and you would take a step behind and sometimes and check these, I assume that you have them by heart, but what would be the needs that would be on your list?
That is a very dangerous question. If you say like which need is most important, you cannot say that. It's like a stock. Just look at this chart. It goes up and down. So in 1 second, your need for food is alive, and then in the other second, it's probably the need for community or for consideration. So whatever being seen, it just changes basically every second.
Okay, so it basically you're telling me about Maslow's hierarchy, on whichever level you are.
Right, it just changes. If you say like, I would say, people say like, okay, food is the most important need, that's the first thing. I have troubles accepting it that way, because, it might be at one moment, it might be food, but then, a second later or a minute later, it's something else. Mm-hmm. So you can't really say those needs are more important than the others. All of them are, because, that's why, in a language of life, if you ask like, how are you doing? In a language of life, you would say, what is alive right now? Because mm-hmm. you want to know, what does this person need right now? So you ask for the need. And if you take that question with you, like, what is alive right now? You basically never make the mistake of, saying like one need is more important than the other, because you are aware that, this could change. If you have a conversation at the beginning, you talk about education, about your goals. A minute later, you talk about relationships, so it can be just changing, like, the charts on the stock market.
We were just talking. I want to go back to your father and to your childhood for a second to make a clearer understanding of this language of life when we talk with our children, because majority of us have children. I have 4 at home, so. How was your childhood like? How did your father talk to you when compared to other parents? You said that we as parents, we limit our children with must not, blah, blah, blah. This is absolutely true. Also guilty of that as charged. But how did your father talk to you so that he didn't limit you?
Well, whenever we like, I remember these situations when he asked me in public, what is alive right now, and then people like, what are they talking about, But I think that's the essential difference. You ask, what is alive right now? And I mean, I was a troubled kid, you know, I often just went for my own needs at a very young age. So, but the good thing is that if you have parents who go language of life with you, you know, they connect with you. That's why I say that, you know, language of life, what is language of life? Love, empathy, compassion, giving. So if your parents, you know, realize at this moment this child needs empathy for, you know, what they need, you know, then they can engage in a compassionate giving, in a sense that they, you know, connect with what the child needs. But then also, and that is important, like you can be 2 years, you can be 4 years, you can be 90 years, whatever, but, you know, saying that the child is too young for language of life, no, it's not. You know, you can talk to a 3-year-old about your 40-year-old needs, and the child will understand that, you know. So also parents, you know, probably they are afraid of dealing with that, but that's human nature. That's true human nature true, essentially. So even a 3-year-old, even a 98-year-old, you know, they can connect with what you need. Probably they are not able to communicate, but or express in words their response. But, you know, my dad mentioned these examples of people with Parkinson, and they were, you know, communicating with other, like Alzheimer's disease, and still they went language of life. So it essentially works. And the people who did that, they told him that they realized that the other person was, you know, responding, and they got that feedback, even if it was probably, there were no words, but the feedback is there. And the same with a child, you know, if a child realizes, okay, my dad, you know, listens what I need, and tries to kind of connect with it. Probably he doesn't agree, but he's still, you know, he's here and listening. You know, that is life-changing for a child as well. And that was
the need of being important is met.
Right. And, you know, powerful examples are like when your dad kind of, you know, you have an idea as a child, you don't want to go to school, and your dad goes with you to court and defends your child's decision that you don't want to go to school, you know, like he did that for one of my brothers. So, you know, that is really, you know, having that, or you realize as a child, okay, my dad, here's what I need. I don't want to go to school. I want to find my own ways to meet my needs. That's the need behind it, I would say. And then you have someone who expresses his or the need of community or consideration in being with you at the court and defending your decision not to go to school. You know, that is just, you know, truly powerful. And I wish it to every child, having that kind of relationship with their parents. And it is possible, you know, people say, no, I cannot have that, or it's not possible. Oh, it is possible. In one of the books, he had that example of a Japanese student who told him, you know, Marshall, I can never talk about that to my dad, and, you know, my dad is so different, it's not going to happen. And he lives in this Japanese traditional culture, and, you know, he then finally, through persistence, he started talking with a language of life to his dad. And then he came back to the dad and told him, you couldn't imagine how profound I have conversations now with my father, you know, just because he did it, you know. It doesn't take two people, it takes one person to go language of life.
Okay.
And when people say like crypto is peer-to-peer, language of life is heart-to-heart, it takes one person to initiate the process. You know, if you speak a language of life, the other person will join. If you send crypto, the other person receives it and joins it. So it's like that. It's straight. There is no intermediary. There is no. It's just straight heart to heart. If I hear you speak with me in a language of life, I connect. Simple. So.
Is it always like this? I mean, sometimes in the business world, in entrepreneurship, language of life is not something that you meet on daily basis. And you also, in your book, you have mentioned that at first it was sometimes challenging to convey your message with the language of life a couple of times at least. So how have you found it so far? You have spoken this language in the business world now for 3 years. How do people or your partners react to your way of communicating?
Well, a few points here. Like initially, you know, the problem is not that no one speaks it. The problem is that I was not, solid in using it. So whenever, that is the challenge, Again, as I said, if one person goes language of life, the other one will join. So if I say it's challenging, that's because, that falls back to me. If I want to do it, then, well, I have to be solid in it, So that is the first step. That's a consciousness, The other thing is that there are a lot of, sorry for that, there are a lot of crooks out there, and there are people who kind of exploit others to the extent that they would do whatever it takes for their own profit. That's true, but as a language of life entrepreneur, your challenge is to realize that. So if someone does not meet your needs, you have to be aware of that yourself. You have to take self-care. Self-care is not selfish. It's like self-protective in a way. And that is the challenge. And in my second book, which will be released soon, the Language of Life Heart Deal, the Heart of the Language of Life Deal, I talk about that. And in the brain capacity slang, you would call it due diligence. It's like, trying to figure out what are the needs. So in the language of life world, you just figure out what you need. If the other person connects, well, then obviously you get to a mutual agreement. If not, then you realize that this person has other needs to meet, and the strategies are so different from the strategies you would apply, that the mutual agreement in this case is that you disconnect and take a break and protect yourself essentially. And language of life doesn't mean that you kind of become victimized all the time. It's just like you apply force, in a sense, protective, the protective use of force. My dad had a full chapter in one of his books about the protective use of force. So you use force not to punish. You don't call the police to hurt someone, whatever. I want to get him jail, whatever. No, that's not the case. You want to use that kind of tool to protect yourself, but the other person as well, because you realize, okay, this person is using a strategy which probably hurts me, obviously, but himself as well. So you want to kind of use force in a protective way to reestablish the needs for both sides. And that gets us to a new approach in laws and how you kind of enforce needs, not rights, needs. And when the UN talks about human rights, I wish they were talking about human needs, because that's just a huge difference. If I say it's my right, well, maybe, but what if someone else cannot agree on that, and you say it's my right? That would be essentially a conflict. So if you talk about human needs, then it's just already the word right, need, it's like, compare it, it's a huge difference. And if it is a human need 7 billion people can agree upon, I'm pretty sure the solutions will be there faster, because it takes away this kind of, you have to, it must be done like that. It essentially gives people the chance to do or to respond compassionately, compassion giving. Realize that? So that is human nature, And with our words, we essentially corrupt ourselves. We limit ourselves even, because, I will talk about that in the third book I've already in mind, and how words essentially, predict your financial future. So if you tell someone you have to, you must, whatsoever, you're basically reducing the chance of getting what you want, what you need, because it takes away the opportunity for the other person to respond compassionately. And that's the key. That's what I realized in business. So if I take back the human rights, whatever idea, I switch to the human needs. I'm switching positions from rights to needs, I have seen that so many times now, that out of nowhere, people respond compassionately. And those are, the biggest success stories, I would say, in language of life entrepreneurship. So, you go to 100 banks and ask 100 banks for a line of credit, and 100 banks say no thank you, and then out of nowhere you get a phone call, and you get it. So because someone can respond compassionately. It's like, you know, they realize, okay, this guy meets my needs. Let's go all in, you know, and that is the true success stories of any entrepreneur, I guess. You know, when you realize, when you achieve that kind of compassionate business deals, yeah, where people interact based on human needs and human nature. That's what I wanted to talk about and teach.
You say that your third book is about the choice of words, and even though already in this Millionaire Human, you emphasize words pretty much, and language is about words. They come either from the heart or from the brain or wherever, but they come out as words. And you have a comparison of two languages in the Millionaire Human book. One is the bankruptcy slang, as you call it, and another is a Millionaire Human language. Shall we do a little exercise?
Let's do it.
There are some that I find bankruptcy slangs that are quite common, and please help me to reverse them or translate those statements into Millionaire Human language. Can we do that?
Yes.
Yeah, I like these things. And if it's not a bankruptcy slang, then you just tell me that, sorry, this is true Millionaire Human language. I don't have enough time.
I would say what you need is a response. If someone tells me I don't have time, the question is, what do you need? You know, what are you working for? You know, and then if people tell me I don't have time for it, okay, but then the question is rather, you know, what are you working for? So if someone tells me I don't have time, it's kind of superficial. I would rather say, okay, Simon, right now I am on my need for whatever is alive. So it doesn't, you know, it doesn't give me the way to interact with you or connect with you right now, because
my priorities lie somewhere else.
It's different. Yeah, right. So if I say I don't have time, it's just very superficial communication. It opens the world to violence, because the other person could take that person. I could say, well, she doesn't like me, you know, he thinks I'm whatever. It just, you know, this kind of communication just opens the brain to all kinds of ideas, which are basically not true, because whenever we turn on the brain, it gets dirty, as my dad said, and I agree on that. So if language of life is essentially a heart's language, you know, the heart would never say I don't have time. The heart tells you, okay,
I need something else.
My need for whatever silence, or you know, it can just be that I want to talk, or I just want to be alone right now, and then I don't have time for it, you know. Or, you know, the reasons why I say I don't have time are endless, but if you leave the other person in doubt about why you don't have time, you just give the other person endless reason to attack you or take it personal, and then that leads to violence. So if we don't communicate precisely, if we don't talk about the needs, we are essentially opening the world to violence. That's all it is.
Okay.
Because then people turn on the brain. If 7 billion people speak a language of life, no problem. You could easily say I don't have time. Why? Because the other person says, okay, you know, there must be, you know. And if you are, you know, in the case you say I don't have time, to me, so what? You know, I don't care. It doesn't. I don't take it personal. You know, there are 4 ways how you can respond to it. You take it personal and you get sad. You start to cry. He doesn't like me. Second, you get angry. You attack the other person. You know, he doesn't take me serious whatsoever. The third one is that you connect with your needs. So, okay, he says, I don't have time. Well, my need is community, so I go somewhere else. Number 3. And number 4, you connect with what the person needs. So, okay, Chris wants to, you know, I don't know, she wants to meet her children, whatever. She has to go to work. She wants to go shopping. What it can be anything. And then when I'm connected with your need, I would never attack you. You know, I would recognize your sovereignty. I would recognize, you know, your human nature. I would never, never, ever attack. That is for 7 billion people the same.
So instead of saying I don't have time, just lay the reason on the table, and the other person don't have to analyze and make up the reasons for you. What they think.
Just challenge them. Someone who tells you I don't have time, challenge them. Ask them, you know, what you need. What's the life right now?
Yeah.
They would be so surprised by that question. They would probably answer you out of spontaneity. You know.
Would you try that in the States where people don't respond when you ask them anything?
I would at least try it. I would say, like, you know, what's life right now, or what you need? And I'm like, what? But then you have their attention, you know. And they realize, hey, this guy takes me serious. He asks me what I need, or, you know, what is alive. So just challenge it.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Another thing that I hear a lot. I have to get everything done by myself because otherwise it will not get done at all.
That's tricky, yeah. In this case, I see people want to have, you know, they want consideration. So you just respond, great. So you ask for more consideration, you know, you want to be seen. So you want your efforts to be recognized. From this, I can do it only myself. You know, they want, first of all, to show everyone, you know, recognition. They want to be seen for their efforts. But probably what you can do also here is you could ask back, so you're asking for more assistance, or are you asking me for assistance? Because most people, you know, respond to you or tell you something instead of asking questions. They tell you, if I don't do it, no one's going to do it. Well, that just closes the mind. A statement closes the mind. If you ask a question, do you need assistance? Or are you asking me for, are you telling me that you need more assistance, you know? And then she says, no. Well, then you say, okay, would you like to have more consideration for your efforts or recognition for your efforts? She says, yes. If she says no, then, you know, you already guessed 2 times, and instead of guessing a 3rd time and, you know, annoying the other person, you ask, okay, can you help me with telling me, or by telling me what you need, or what is alive right now? So you don't guess 3 times, you guess 2 times, and then you ask at the first, instead of, you know, 3rd guess, you can say, okay, I've already, you know, guessed twice wrong. I would rather ask you for your support. Can you help me? And whenever people hear that you ask them to help you, they will help you in any case, you know, because even if a human being is under pain, they will respond compassionately to your call for help. So if you ask them, can you help me? I didn't find out what you need. Please tell me, or like, help me out. I'm confused. I'm even helpless because I cannot, you know, connect with you. I need your assistance. And then they tell you. So whenever someone says, you know, if I don't do it, no one's going to do it, guess 2 times, then ask. Or, you know, if you are a language of life speaker, you could also say, and that's truly complicated, but you can have different approaches. Again, you take it personal, you get sad, you get angry, you attack. So why? I'm competent as well. I can do it also. I can help. You know, that could create conflict. Just in a relationship, you know, the husband tells the wife, you know, don't help me. You know, you cannot do the finance in the house. Don't touch it. I'd rather do it alone. And then, you know, there's an example in one of the books. You know, and then the wife thinks that the husband, you know, thinks she's stupid whatsoever. So that creates conflict. And then again, you consider your needs and say, okay, I want to work with others. I want to be in group. I want to work in group. So you just go to, you know, you leave that person who wants to work alone and go for your own needs. That's one way. Or you connect with the person and start asking questions. Start, you know, you make the first guess, the second guess, then you ask the question, can you help me? So if always these 4 ways, well, in a language of life, only 2, because angry and sad is not part of your world. That would be the bankruptcy slang. But these are the 2 ways you always have these opportunities. You focus on your needs, or you focus on the other need and engage in a conversation. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you. So much about the language. But you are talking about a millionaire human, and there is so much more to a human being than the words that they are expressing themselves through. What is there? What else is there in a human being that is a millionaire human besides language? What do they eat? How do they exercise? Is there anything common there?
Well, again, the 7 billion plus people have the same needs. So, probably they are probably not aware of it, or they kind of think that those needs are not important whatsoever. Again, that's a mindset story. They consider it not important, like, realizing your own goals, in some place of the world, this might be not even part of your thoughts. You just forgot about it. But essentially the needs are the same, for 7 billion people. I think there are 7 billion plus, so we say more, but they're the same. And, the challenge is truly to find, if you're looking for community to engage with others, to communicate, and then you find most likely someone who has the similar need at the same moment. And if not, then at least the conversation about it is so exciting that, the truly supportive relationships establish themselves as a result of people connecting with their needs. So you can have, you are in Estonia, I'm in Malta right now, but still, the connection is there. You can connect with any human being nowadays with these great achievements in technology. You can sit in Alaska and talk to someone in Australia. So the way of, or the chance to connect with someone else who has, or who responds to your needs is just multiplied by X, it's unlimited basically. You go on social media and then post your need, and most likely someone will respond to it, in case you need help for that. So that is also something I'm working on out, like some sort of SOS, language of life helpline that people can, reach out and, they need assistance. Something like a language of life helpline that everyone can call, all languages are there, and you just reach out and try to find someone who basically connects with you. That's the call for empathy. I would love to see, like, international organizations like the UN offering that kind of service. That would be truly for humanity, that you can call, well, not buy, but probably, but you can call for empathy, or you could call for compassion, or, for someone just being with you right now. I guess that would help avoid a lot of conflicts, a lot of violence. People just could call out and ask, hey, I'm sorry, I'm about to do something which might hurt me and others. Can you help me? And if there would be someone who is just listening, that would be a very preventive use of language of life to, prevent violence, conflict, whatsoever. The best way to prevent violence is to connect with human needs. That was one of my postings I did at the time, on European Dreams project, and hit like 10,000 views in like 1 hour and 20 minutes. I remember that. It was pretty powerful. So these kind of messages, they sell pretty good. I didn't make anything for it, but people respond to that because it's so, it gets them where they want to be. It connects with the nature, and so 7 billion people share the needs list. It's not complete. Anyone can add more needs to it, but everyone would agree on that. Yeah, I have that need. Probably not now, but I remember times when I had that. Or yeah.
So Simon, 1 year has passed since you wrote Millionaire Human. What has changed in your life?
Well, a year ago, I think the biggest change is that I realized over that year that I have to write more books. That's the one thing. Then I also realized that probably the book was, it should be for free, in a sense that, people should probably have some sort of information before they they approach the book, and that's why we published a white paper, the Language of Life white paper. You can find it on gololflix.com or on Miljoni-Inimene.com or on the blockchain. It's all there. So it is like the first step into it, so that you understand what Language of Life is, and then you realize, okay, now I want to learn more, and then you get the book. Then you get deeper into it, and you realize the opportunities with it. So the white paper is really technical, what it is, what is Language of Life. Then the book just shows you how you can use these tools from the white paper and and apply them in real life, not only in business but in real life. And what changed is that we really built on this book an entire brand. I mean, the second edition is already called Billionaire Human. Why? Because we believe that 7 billion people and more deserve the Language of Life, so that's why I call Billionaire Human. And so it's nothing about being a billionaire or whatsoever. I mean, that will come essentially as a result of you serving other needs. But the idea is really to get that message over, that 7 billion people and more deserve Language of Life, and 7 billion use it and know it and they have it. So we built an entire brand on that. We built this blockchain coin, Human Nature True, to remind people of compassion when they transact and interact with each other over the world in seconds. Basically costs nothing. We built the Gololflix channel to a fully decentralized Language of Life broadcast. And so we are just, building on this idea of a Language of Life, expanding our horizons as entrepreneurs, and and providing more solutions in ways of products and services where people can get into it and get that awful leak of bankruptcy slang off their neck. That's what it is. That's what we're doing. That has changed.
Excellent. Seems that your last year has been as busy as the 4 first before Millionaire Human.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just going like the hours of work.
Would you ever want to slow down a bit? How do you feel right now?
No, I wouldn't. And that's really interesting. When you found what you like to do, and you invest in what you're doing, probably not what you like to do, but when you invest in what you like. So I invest in a Language of Life. So you essentially have so much power that becomes alive, because you are serving one of your needs. Realizing your own goals in life and choosing the way you want to achieve those goals. So that is so. I mean, yeah, it's a heavy lot of work, but you are serving a need. So you don't feel that you don't see it as work, because it is essentially a strategy. You choose yourself, which is a need. You choose your own way to solve a goal, like to solve a problem, to get a goal done, that you are in the needs. You're not in the money, you're in the needs. And that's also, one of the hard words. You're in the needs. Of course, if you're in the needs, you're in the money, but that is just a second attribute to it, to being in the needs. So yeah, I wouldn't stop. I can't stop. I don't want to stop.
Very good to hear. So it probably means that Estonian readers are also going to be able to read more of your thoughts. And I personally, as I translated your book, I personally found this book really something. I read it, I mean, probably 4 or 5 times before I started to to translate it, to understand what's the message and what's the basis and what's behind the words that are written on with the ink on the white paper. It's so profound. There are so much more behind the words than on the paper. So this is definitely a very, very good read that I would recommend to all of my customers also, and I have done that. So I'm highly recommending this book. And thank you for writing that. That's a true wake-up call, I would say.
I call it even a mission to serve my fellow human beings. So if I publish a book that, gets people into the needs, into the language of life, well, then I serve my life's purpose. I enrich another person's life, which is also a need. So, and that is also one thing I want to mention here. You can contribute to another person's well-being or to the enrichment of life by working for someone. But if you work for your goals, just at a bigger level. So it's, a lot of gurus out there talk about, being an employee and an entrepreneur, whatsoever, what is better. That's not what I want to do here. It's just that you're just expanding your means and the way to serve humanity in going into life. If you're in the needs, you can be in the needs as an employee also, no question. Of course you can. You can do a lot of great things as an employee in a company, in an organization. No question asked. It takes only one person to go language of life. However, the chances are very high that the moment you really live that, you realize, oh my God, this thing doesn't meet my needs. And then you expand, So that's the kind of the risk. Probably I should mark it in the book, careful, reading this might probably change your life forever, something like that. So it has this kind of, transformational bomb in it. It's like a bomb de surprise. And the moment you read it, like, boom, my life is bigger than what I thought it is. So, yeah. Yes.
And with that discovery, my life is bigger than it is right now. I would really, this is a very suitable closure to this interview, I think. And what I do wish from my side, first of all, thank you so much for this excellent hour that has passed like this. And thank you for your thoughts and for your ideas and this book that is readable now in Estonian language also, and looking forward to your next books. And yeah, thank you so much, Simon.
Thanks for serving the Estonian readers. Thanks for
my pleasure. And thank you for the challenge translating this book. That was really something. I love to make up the words in Estonian, because you made up the words in English also. It was really something. I like.
I had that challenge when I was translating back in 2017. I was translating the needs list from German, to English, French, Spanish, Italian, Dutch, and Portuguese. That was a hell of a work, but it was worth it. I published that, like, as a, I gave it around to friends and people it's still around somewhere. So it's a hell of a work to do that. So thank you very much for doing that and helping me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Nii et suur aitäh ka sulle, hea Inspiratsiooniraamatukogu sõber, seda tundi aega meiega veetmast, ja Miljoni-Inimene on minu taga siin riiulil selleks, et aidata sinul ka üles leida enda seest EluKeel ja mitte kukkuda PankrotiKeelde, nagu Simon seda oma raamatus nimetab. Nii et see raamat on tõesti tiine sõna otseses mõttes sügavamatest mõtetest kui see, mis on nende sõnade sees, nende paberite peal. Nii et soovin sulle mitmekordset lugemist, avatud meelt ja edu, määratut edu kõikides sinu tegemistes. Meie kohtume taas järgmisel neljapäeval.